What is up, everybody? Welcome to Shoot the Gap, the IDP Fantasy Football podcast here at Fantasy and Frames and on the Fantasy and Frames podcast network. I'm your host, Jorge Edwards. With me, I got the godfather of IDP himself, Mr. Gary Davenport, and Justin Taylor, a.k.a. JT, a.k.a. at JT Orange on the Twitter machine. Gary, what's going on, man?
Oh, not a whole lot. Rocking 95 again. I'll dress up again as soon as Myles Garrett breaks the single season sack record, which might be Sunday. So y'all might want to tune in. That's the only reason to watch the Cleveland Browns and the Tennessee Titans play the awfulest game of football ever. But Garrett, he needs 4, and he might get Cam Ward, but just run, son. Run. Run.
No, don't run. Stay perfectly still and let Myles Garrett get to you.
No, he runs backwards anyway. Myles will catch him.
I love it. JT, how's it going, brother?
Good. College signing day today. A lot of big news on the college front, as I'm a college football fan as well. Also want to do a shout out to John McGlynn, my guy, Brother Rice, his high school. They canceled the state championships this weekend because of snow in Illinois. Pretty crazy. They won tonight. State champions, Brother Rice, 21 D1 recruits on their team. So congrats to John and his alma mater. They're out of Chicago. Big win for them. But yeah, pretty crazy day. If you're a big college football fan, watch all these guys sign or not sign. I don't even know if I should bring it up, Gary. Maybe the number one recruit in the country is trying to decide if he's going to Ohio State. I still think they get him. But I think he's just taking a second to think about it.
If that young man wants to go somewhere else after Brian Hartline moved on, then go somewhere else. Ohio State will be just fine. Buckeyes don't rebuild, they reload. Oh, and since we're a little more college tangent, and this is a show about defense, today Ohio State became the first team to sweep Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year awards. They had the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year in Caleb Downs, who was also the Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year. They had the Big Ten Linebacker of the Year in Arvell Reese, and the Big Ten Defensive Lineman of the Year. I can't even remember which one won because you could give it to all of them. Oh, my God, that defense is good.
Hey, defense wins championships, right? I still think Ohio State wins it all back-to-back because of the defense. I think their defense is elite.
Matt Patricia's probably going to be gone after this year, too. We're going to lose both coordinators again because some NFL team, one of these NFL teams that has a DC vacancy is going to want to hire Matt Patricia after he did at Ohio State this year.
Not any of his Super Bowl winning defenses, but no, this past year, oh my God.
Hey, he rehabilitated his image. This is one of the greatest college defenses ever.
Well, yeah. You mentioned things that the Buckeyes do, meaning reloading. You know what they also do? Get you sick when you eat them. They are not meant to be eaten, folks. Just letting you know.
They have edible ones, man. It's like chocolate and peanut butter. It's like a Reese cup.
Those are delicious, yes. Right. But not like the actual
a Buckeye itself is when I die, I have told my family, I'm not kidding, because they have things where they'll cremate you and use your ashes to fertilize a tree. I want to be a Buckeye tree. I want to be a tree filled with toxic nuts.
Getting this show started on the right foot, folks. I'll tell you.
Going into the next life, just like I'm living this one.
I love it. We got 3P1C fail, aka epic fail. I can't believe it took us so long to figure that out. Jesus. Hey, y'all, locked in first seed in my IDP league, first year. Wonder if you all have sneaky ads for the playoffs. It's funny that you should mention that, because I was going to bring this up a little bit earlier, and how this episode, like we do for all our other episodes that we've done for all our other episodes this season, we've given you plays and fades. Well, next week and the week after and the week after that, we understand it's the fantasy playoffs. We understand that you have pretty much your roster assembled. So we're still going to give you plays and fades, but we're going to take it a step further. We're going to give you a floor play and a ceiling play. So that way you can tell if you're like trailing in your playoff matchup, who's somebody that you should really take a risk on versus somebody that you want as steady as can be in terms of consistency. So tune in for that. But we definitely got some plays and fades for you for week 14. But before we get into that, I thought he
said foreplay there for a second, and I got frightened about what I'd gotten myself into.
If it is, he says, ooh, I like that. Nice.
I'm not. tickling nothing or caress. I barely know you guys, man.
I am not your Amani Hooker, Gary. All right, I am not. Okay, I refuse to be.
JT stole my hooker.
I will never do it again. I will pay for this sin for the rest of my life.
I need to clip out that scene.
Alone.
I need to clip out the scene from that podcast episode and like put it on like TikTok or like Instagram Reels and just say this is how Shoot the Gap goes down, literally with hookers being stolen left and right here. Let's see here. Epic Fail says definitely need more ceiling players. Well, you know what you should do. You should tune in and Shoot the Gap. So yeah, but with that, we'll get into some really brief news or notes here after this. Sean in the YouTube chat says, is this an only fantasy football show? As referring to OnlyFans? Maybe.
He wishes.
Hey, we'd need some real fetish type people tuning into this show.
Well, we'd also need
an OnlyFans show. Jeez.
I'm gonna need some compensation too. I'm just saying.
Well, you know what? That's where the YouTube super chat donations come into play. Let's send a lot more super chat donations to Fantasy and Frames on YouTube, and we'll turn this into whatever type of show you want. He says, make that money, guys. I'll tell you what, this week has been a scandalous week for Fantasy and Frames programming, starting with the Waiver Wire watch party this past Monday. Things went off the rail quick, and it was a pleasure to see it. And here on Shoot the Gap, we are continuing that trend. So for news and notes, we got we have a few teams on bye. We got the Giants, got the Patriots, got the Panthers, got the 49ers. Here's some relevant news. Trey Hendrickson hasn't been declared out already this week. Isn't that something? I feel like that's an accomplishment. Woo! The first time that Trey Hendrickson hasn't been declared out on a Wednesday heading into this week's matchup. So I am excited for that. Gary, does that excite you?
No, not even a little bit, given that they're playing Buffalo and they're usually a lousy pass rush matchup. And just because he wasn't declared out on Wednesday don't mean he's going to be in on Friday. I think Trey's just about done in Cincinnati.
Well, when we get to Money Mirage, I have a question for you that I'll come circling back to. We got a bunch of questionable players. We got Max Crosby, Will Anderson, TJ Watt is questionable with a toe injury. Gary, your guy Byron Young, several others at the defensive line position. But
I think most of those are fine.
We got Schweisinger for the Browns. He's probably fine. Nobody's really jumping out the page here. Yeah, that's all the news you need to know for week 14, basically.
Watch toe makes me a little nervous.
Can we get any more injuries? I feel like everyone's been hurt forever. I mean, it's like I don't know if there's any more guys out there that can be hurt. It's been ridiculous.
Well, okay. Well, let me ask you guys a question, because one guy has been declared out that was fantasy relevant for many people when he was healthy, which is Kirby Joseph. Again, out this week. If you're the Kirby Joseph manager, and I'll start with JT this time because I know exactly what Gary will say, but Gary will get your opinion on this also. Is it time to cut bait? Like you're just going to cut the guy who, when he does play, has been playing well, but that knee injury has just been lingering for so long that, in the playoffs, you want your roster full of like as healthy as you can get players versus somebody who's constantly dealing with injuries?
Yeah, I definitely think it matters too at position wise. Like, I think there's some positions you'll take a little bit more of a hit and like last longer. Like you'll like look at Trey Hendrickson, like, oh, if he ends up playing, like I'm gonna hold him in case I need him in the playoffs. DBs, I feel like a lot of times when those guys get banged up, it's easier to cut bait and go with somebody else. You know what I'm saying? They're just not as important. And you can find a million other ones on the waiver wire. So why I like him a lot, he's a really good player. If I'm seeing on him right now, I'm making down another move. I'm going and grabbing a sinker from New Orleans. I'm grabbing a Blankenship from the Eagles. I'm doing something else just to make sure I have a higher end guy that's been performing lately on my roster.
Gary, you already waved bye-bye.
Oh, if Kirby Joseph was on any of my rosters, I'd cut his ass before Halloween. Don't lie.
Gary goes, I don't even look at the DB's names. I just look at the point production, and then I'm like, play, cut,
Yep.
play.
I
cut.
look
He
at
doesn't
the
even care.
matchups. I don't give a damn.
You know,
It don't matter even a little.
As somebody who wanted to take a different approach from everybody in the Kings Classic, the butt kiss division this year, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to go box safety heavy and show all y'all that defensive backs matter. You want to talk about, just the utter butt whooping that has then since ensued. I will be defiant as hell to the end because I have rattled off a few victories here to make sure that I will not finish in last place. Thank you very much. But that notwithstanding, never doing that again. So just
hey, Jorge, sometimes when you go out on a limb, you just gotta. It's either gonna work out great for you or it's gonna blow up in your face. There's almost no two other ways. It's like it's either gotta finish or you gotta finish last. There's no other way.
Week 14 is gonna be something in that league. There's a whole bunch of teams packed in together trying to get into the playoffs. So.
Yeah, JT, when you mentioned Jorge going out on a limb, when my 300-pound ass goes on a limb, yeah, it's generally not going to work out in my favor for fantasy football. So definitely.
That's what happened. You didn't fall down the steps, did you? That's how you tore your ACL. You went out on a limb.
Oh my God. To this day, I will go down the stairs and I will be carrying something and everybody will stop what they're doing and they'll like take a breath. Yeah, exactly. What you're doing right there, just like waiting for me to do something stupid. And it's like, folks, it's been a couple of years, but then it messes with my head about falling. It's needless to say, it's still a sore subject, but we're doing fine. We're doing fine. Let's get into, before we get into Monday Mirage, I just want to cover some fantasy playoff stuff right here. For many of you out there, your leagues are starting the fantasy playoffs in week 15. Last week, we covered the whole topic of, handcuffing players, which position players are the ones you want to stockpile on your benches, so on and so forth. And we briefly talked about, hot streaks versus season-long production. Gary, I want to kind of make a combo question here for you of the latter 2 points I just made that we talked about last week. If you had to pick a defensive lineman, linebacker, or a defensive back, well, actually, let's go one by one with each of those three. For defensive back, actually, let's go the other direction. Defensive lineman. Let's go defensive lineman for you to start off here. Would you rather have on your bench backups who have been streaking lately or been consistent through the whole season?
Oh, maybe a mixture of both.
If you had to pick one.
I mean, I don't probably the guys who have been more consistent through the season because defensive linemen are inherently streaky. So a guy can put up, 4 sacks over 2 weeks and then not have a sack for a month. So if I got that guy who's banging a sack every other week all season long, I feel like my odds are going to be better in a must-win game that I'll get one out of him than the guy who came out of nowhere, has logged 5 sacks over the last 3 games, and then right when you absolutely need him the most, vanishes again on you.
All right. So then where would you, same type of scenario, but for linebackers, consistency or recent production?
Again, I want to mix them, man. I want a couple hot hands.
There is no mixing. There is no middle ground. This is the land of extremes. It's only one or the other.
Oh, so long as they're getting full-time snaps, give me the hot hand guys at linebacker. Because again, it's all about ceiling in the playoffs. You're going up against good teams. There's not going to be any easy outs. At least you shouldn't anticipate it. It's very possible you're going in as a 5 or 6 seed, and you're going to roll into the first postseason game as an underdog. So I want upside. I want guys that are. If I got a guy who's got 3 straight games of 10+ tackles and a nice matchup in week 15, that's the guy I want.
And then for defensive back to round out those 3 positions.
Hot hand, man. You ain't even got to ask me that question. I don't give a shit what a defensive back did a month ago. Sorry, pardon my French.
Okay. No, we're good. My mom doesn't watch after 9 p.m., so we're good. I won't hear about it later.
Oh, thank goodness.
Tomorrow. Yes. Well, when we start talking about
Jorge, why are you friends with that Gary guy? That guy with the beard. He says naughty things.
Is he the one you hang out with at the
Naughty? That was kind of creepy.
That was kind of
naughty.
I know, because that's what a mom would say.
Yes, I suppose so.
It's creepier when JT says it.
A little bit.
It is kind of creepy, actually. When I said it, I actually felt bad. As it came out, I was like, ugh, don't say that ever again.
JT, let me ask you the same question.
Don't dress him up like Santa Claus.
Jesus Christ. Here we go. JT, same question. Consistency or hot streak for defensive linemen? Where do you stand on this for bench players on your team?
You want to go hot streak sometimes, but I want to go consistency on my D line usually, just because it does, ebb and flow pretty big on the D line sometimes, just between sacks. So I just, you don't want to sit one of your studs and be like, he just had a huge game, and I was like trying to play the fact that he hadn't had a sack in 2 weeks, and so I didn't play him. So D line, I'm probably playing my studs more, hoping the talent wins out over a guy that's kind of on a hot streak.
And then for linebacker and defensive back?
DB is always the hot hand. I think you got to go with the guy that's scoring the most and playing well at the time. Linebacker, that's another one. I tell you what, I've struggled more with linebacker starts this year than any of my other leagues in any other year. I have so many guys that are like so close together. It's like trying to figure out which guy you like every week. It's really tough. But when you've spent like high draft capital or you really like a guy, it's so hard to sit that guy. So if I'm playing in a league with like 2 or 3 linebackers, I'm probably playing my one stud no matter what, even if he hasn't played great. I think like a Zaire Franklin's a good example. Like I'm probably playing him, even though he hadn't been great for a while. He's been good lately. I'm probably playing a guy like that just because. And then I'm probably playing the 2 other hot hands or guys that at least been pretty solid the last 3 weeks. So it's a little more of a mix there. But I'm like Gary, DB, I think you play hot hand no matter what on DB.
Speaking of hot hands at defensive back, Gary, you mentioned a couple hot hands in your IDP waiver wire article over at fantasyandframes.com. Highly recommend you all check that out for week 14. Fantasyandframes.com, Gary's IDP waiver wire articles. Definitely a couple hot hand recommendations at defensive back. And, when all else fails, you trust the Godfather. Got Bob Miller in the chat. What's up, Bob? He says, consistency for DL and LB, hot hands for DBs all day. And we got Epic Fail. You know what? Now that I know it's Epic Fail, I just want to call you 3P1C from now on, Fail. So 3P1C Fail. So who is the hot hand for DB now? I had Bishop. Now he's cooling down. I don't know. Maybe you should head over to fantasyandframes.com and read Gary's IDP waiver.
Check it. Yeah, check that out. Also, I know Sean with the comment
Actually,
has got one of my hot hands I'm gonna talk about in the show tonight.
One of the guys from my waiver article, I'm pretty sure I'm going to mention tonight. I know I've mentioned him somewhere this week. I tend to mention the same guys like 4 times in a week because I'm trying to tell people, hey, you might want to start that guy. And then when I'm wrong, I just pretend I never said it.
There you go.
Perfect. I don't care. I can't remember I never said that.
It's like, show me where I said that.
Right. Oh, and then when they show it to me, I just say, well, that's obviously AI. I mean, I never would have said that. That's wrong. I've never been wrong. And you don't have to go back and check the receipts. You just take my word for it.
Exactly.
I'm infallible.
Proof?
The only thing, my only better quality than my infallibility is my humility. I'm very humble about the fact that I'm perfect.
As we can all tell. And as you see it scrolling at the bottom
Knight's
of the
still
screen,
young.
And we're just getting started. And you know what? I love it. For those of you who are watching, as you can see scrolling at the bottom of the screen, for IDP waiver wire articles and IDP plays and fade recommendations, head on over to fantasyandframes.com as well as check out our rankings while you're there each and every week for offense, defense, dynasty, IDP dynasty, you name it. Our IDP plays and fades will come out tomorrow afternoon. And again, check out Gary's waiver wire article for week 14. And with that, let's get into some Money Mirage. So as you all know, when we do Money Mirage, we're going to give you a statement, and we're going to debate whether or not it is a true statement or one that is maybe a little fool's gold, and kind of throw it around the frames and see what we all have to say here. So Gary, I want to start with you with this one, Money Mirage. So don't look now, but there are 3 stud IDP options for fantasy managers on this Titan defense: Cedric Gray, Jeffrey Simmons, and now Kevin Winston Jr. Given how poorly this Titans offense is, These 3 defenders for the Titans could be league winners for you during the fantasy playoff if their current metrics and usage remain constant. Is that a money statement or a mirage?
Oh, it's more money than Mirage. I mean, I expect Gray's piling up tackles. Meanwhile, Cody Barton has played every defensive snap for the Titans this year. All of them. Every single one. And his tackle numbers suck. You suck, Cody Barton. You suck. Couldn't tackle a 6-year-old girl. Jeffrey Simmons, awesome. Probably, I mean, he'll be in the conversation to be the first defensive tackle drafted next year, and he absolutely should be. Winston, I'm less confident about just because it's a young defensive back. Yes, he's been on a rip the last couple of weeks, but it's defensive backs. And this week's matchup with Cleveland stinks because the Browns' offense sucks almost as bad as Cody Barton does. So give me, on the first 2, money on the first 2, Mirage on the second. So it's 2/3 money. So we'll call it money.
Fair enough. And since you brought up Cody Barton so eloquently and passionately, we're going to go with passionately on that one. I was going to save this for our live read for Dynasty decks later, but I'm just going to do the live read now. So if you go to thedynastydex.com, look, folks, I know we all like trophies, we all like belts, but they make some really awesome championship plaques here. Like literally the stuff is encased in acrylic. They make it for offense and for IDP. You could have like a bazillion players on your starting roster. They'll find a way to put all a zillion players on here. And I want to show you the one I got back in 2023 for an IDP only league. The league's name is literally the IDP only league. So super clever on the commissioner's part here, but hey, I'll take it. I had, we had 3 DLs, 3 linebackers, 3 DBs, and 2 IDP flexes. And my MVP for the year, who scored the most points, Mr. Cody Barton.
Well, he was fine in Seattle. And even in Denver. Got to Tennessee, everyone's like, oh, man, he's going to play every down this year. He's going to clean up. Cody Barton season is finally here. And he's playing every snap, but he gets like 2 tackles a game. Hell, I could get 2 tackles a game just hanging on to people.
So
got to be a couple of little guys out there.
You mentioned every place but one, which was this season. He was a Washington Commander that year. And ironically, in total points scored using the scoring settings on this particular league, he was the LB 55. Isn't that crazy? Doesn't that kind of show you a little bit how deep linebacker can get from year to year? Well,
he's probably higher than that this year, but it's all big plays because he had a pick 6.
Exactly.
And he's had a couple games where he's gotten a sack. So depending on your scoring, he's not terrible. I have him in Butkus, and I might have to start him this week. And oh my God, I don't want to do that. I just feel dirty. I feel naughty.
See, why does it not sound creepy for you, but it sounds creepy for JT? That's kind of
because funny. I am naughty, Jorge. That's why. I'm all kinds of naughty. Y'all don't even want to.
I don't want to know. You're right.
They think they want Gary only fans. No, you don't. You really don't. I will show you things that will mess you up.
No. My virgin eyes can't see that.
Yep.
It's more the ears. It's more the ears. Gary will just say some stuff that you'll just we're getting off topic. Dynasty Decks, thedynastydex.com. Literally, you can just knock on it. It is really cool. You can get them in a black background, white background, totally customizable. Their customer support, like I said, any positions, offense, defense, you name it. Use the promo code FRAMES, get $10 off. So you can get this thing, which you can hang, have it on a display, $40 using the promo code FRAMES. Definitely a cheaper option than a lot of the other trophies out there, and totally customizable. Like I said, really cool stuff. And I love supporting all these smaller brands that are trying to make it out there in the fantasy product space. So the Dynasty Decks, follow them at Dynasty Decks on Twitter. Love those guys over there. So head over there and use the promo code FRAMES for $10 off. Okay, let's get to our second Money or Mirage. And JT, this one goes to you. Do the Steelers finally have a safety you can count on in IDP since the injury to Deshaun Elliott? I'm assuming you're referring to Kyle Duggar. So is Kyle Duggar the one you can count on in the Pittsburgh secondary at safety? Is that a money statement, Kyle Duggar being the case, or is that a mirage to you?
To me, it's a bit of mirage. He if you watch the game, his name was out there a lot and he was like in the mix for a lot of plays and they kept saying his name, but he wasn't really doing a lot and he wasn't shutting anybody down. So while we've been looking all year since Elliott's injury, like which Steelers safety is going to be the guy that ends up being in the box, being the guy you can count on, the guy you can play, I still think it's a mirage. I still don't think you want any of these Steelers DBs at all right now in IDP, especially at this point in the season, pushing for a playoff berth or going into playoffs. I don't think you can trust Duggar. I'm still out on this. I think it's a mirage.
Yeah, I will definitely give you my opinion in place of fades of Kyle Duggar. Sean in the chat, Gary's selling nudes for $3 or $8 not to get one, talking about the OnlyFans account that he will be opening.
Yeah, how do you know how much they cost, Sean? He's got a bucket full of them.
Hey, he was already pre-signed up, Gary. He's already.
He decided it was cheaper to just get the naked pictures than to not get them. So.
Exactly. Sean goes on to say, Cody Barton has sucked always. We got Aiden in the chat saying, what kind of show is this turned into? Save that for FIF After Dark. Oh, wait, it is. Let me tell you, the scandalous Waiver Wire Watch Party show on Monday night, which you should be watching each and every week on our Fantasy and Frames networks, whatever social media platform you're on, including YouTube, it got me thinking, can you imagine if there was a Fantasy and Frames After Dark show completely talking about football, fantasy football, but just not giving you know what about how we say it or do it? Like borderline cancelable, but at the that's right. I made up a word.
Jorge, does anyone actually know that reference? Like, I'm asking because, like, I grew up in the era of like HBO After Dark. Like when I was a kid, like, that was like, that was pre-internet days. Like, if you could get that, if your friend's dad had that, you were like, oh my goodness, in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
but like
JT was checking out Cinemax a lot of like.
I'm just saying. I'm just wondering if anybody understands like that After Dark reference. Like,
they
used to do that way in advance of all this other stuff way back in the day.
Oh yeah, Real Sex 19, Atlantic City. Yeah, who doesn't remember that?
Oh man, but everyone on that show was ugly. All the perverts were ugly. All the swingers ugly. There weren't no attractive swingers. I'd be like, oh, look, we're all nudist colony. We're all swapping everything. And it's a room full of butt ugly people. That ain't right. I don't need to see that.
I can tell you I never thought this conversation was going to happen tonight.
I know, right? I love it.
And I did skip the show tonight because I haven't been feeling very good. I'm glad. I'm like laughing my ass off and I feel a ton better.
That's why I turned on Cinemax because they was faking, but at least they was attractive. I don't need to see a bunch of ugly people actually going at it.
See, I was
that would be this show if we went OnlyFans.
Yeah.
None of us attractive. No one wants to see that.
I wasn't even that fortunate. I had the A/B button on my cable box trying to hack into the Spice Channel, and it never worked. So,
I'm so old. Wait, I'm so old that we once had a cable box that had 30 channels. There were 3 rows.
Yeah.
And the last row, P10, because P was a pay channel. So your whole cable lineup that you didn't have to pay extra for was whopping 20 channels.
Right.
P10 was the adult channel, and when I say adult, I mean full on. Wow!
Yeah.
If you had a key that you had to put in the end of the cable box and turn it so you could access the pay stuff. But if you just took a magnet and held it up to the thing, unlock it all. A 12-year-old Gary saw things I'll never be able to unsee.
Well,
I became a fan that day.
Let me tell you,
Jorge,
I will always.
We've got a comment here, and I think it is the official comment of the night. Off the rails is an understatement from Mike. I think yes, Mike, you're right. It's going off the rails.
I will always be thankful for the country of Canada because my first ever eBay purchase was an unlocked cable box that allowed me to have access to everything. And the moment,
but it was Canadian porn, so there were like moose and stuff
with and hockey sticks. We don't want to know where the hockey sticks are. It doesn't matter.
Whoa.
Oh, really? That's scandalous.
Boundaries.
That's
boundaries, Jorge. My goodness.
Well, let's talk about some IDP Dynasty boundaries. Wow, that's a heck of a segue. In Dynasty,
Jorge, you could just you can edit that whole first half of the show.
No.
Let's get
okay.
the IDP plays and fades. Yeah. Woo.
All right, JT, real quickly, let me ask you a Dynasty question. Or let me give you a statement, and you tell me whether it's a money statement or Mirage. Given his injury history this year, given his age, given the uncertainty of him being on the Bengals next year and not knowing where he'll end up, in Dynasty, it's time to trade away Trey Hendrickson. Money or Mirage?
I'm probably moving him. I think you're right. I think if I can move him, I can move him because I'm just not sure where he's going to be at, what's going on. He's obviously not happy in Cincy. He wants to move on. They don't want to let him move on. He's getting older. I think I'm moving on.
Does the internet want to let JT move?
Problem is, what do you get, though? I mean, what are you going to get in a dynasty for a 30-plus-year-old edge rusher who barely played this year? It's kind of a similar problem with TJ Watt, honestly. You got an Asian guy in a down year, so his value has tanked to the point where, I mean, if you got the roster space, I would probably hold, if only because what a rookie draft pick, what would you reasonably expect to get back for Trey Hendrickson? A third, maybe?
That's what I was thinking. Right in my mind, I was like, hey, if you're just ready to move off Trey Henderson, probably a third in an IDP rookie draft is probably a move you can make. Now, I hate to give up Trey Henderson for that, but I also do really like this defensive draft class for IDP. Depending on how your IDP league works, a lot of my leagues, you start seeing the high-end guys go off at the end of the mid to end of the second round, beginning of the third. If I could move Trey Henderson and get like an Ohio State stud defensive player in the third round, I'd do that. I'd make that move.
Yeah. Oh, if I could swap Trey Hendrickson out for Arvell Reese, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, if you could get Reese, you could get Downs, you could get Styles. I'd take all three of those guys in the third round over Hendrickson right now.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about with Reese is what his NFL role is going to be, because he's kind of got that Micah Parsons. I think he's probably going to wind up an edge rusher in the NFL by the time the dust settles.
He needs to figure out a team that needs to use him in multiple areas, because he is one of those guys, like, if you just put him in one spot and let him play, I don't know if that really helps his ability. Like, you need to have him where you're a guy you can move him around a little bit. He probably fits a 3-4 defense. Well, Gary, let's talk about this real quick. Do you think he's more of a 3-4 guy where he can play outside linebacker rush, but he also can drop if you need to move him inside on like a nickel or dime set? He's athletic enough that he can be there and blitz from the inside. That's kind of how I see him. But what do you think?
I think he's essentially Michael Parsons. And the Cowboys, when Parsons first got into the NFL, they did kind of experiment with, okay, we'll put him at off-ball linebacker then, and then we'll swing him to the edge. And at some point they figured out that Michael Parsons is just really good at making quarterbacks cry, and he became a full-time edge rusher. I have a feeling the same thing is going to happen to Arvell Reese. I'm not saying Arvell Reese is going to be the NFL player Michael Parsons is. I love Arvell Reese, but that's just putting the cart before the horse. But that's kind of the career trajectory I expect for Reese. I mean, we're even seeing more of it as Ohio State season has moved on. He's been a little bit less of an off-ball guy and a little bit more of an edge rusher. Although, what a QB spy! If you're going up against a mobile quarterback, just have number 8 out there. Like, where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Time to close. Quarterback dead.
All right.
Bryce Underwood dead.
I love how Mike P 5092 is like, anyways, Kevin Winston, anyone?
I said about Kevin Winston, he's a hot hand and that's great, but I don't know how much you could really trust him moving forward, because defensive backs go from hot hand to ice cold in the blink of an eye. And again, this week's matchup against Cleveland is poo because the Browns offense is, Brown, sponsored by Dude Wipes.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if that was an affiliate? That'd be fantastic.
No, the Brown. Did you see the alternates they wore with the Browns?
Oh, you're talking like legitimately, like the Browns.
Yes.
Actually, okay.
By Dude Wipes. They were all brown. They wore poo uniforms
That is
and
very smart,
sponsored by, yeah.
That is
Yes, that
great.
actually happened. That's
Okay.
what it's like to be a Browns fan. Thank
Wow.
God for Ohio State, because Sundays come around and I want to kill myself.
Good Lord. Okay. Well, on that positive, uplifting note, how about we give some folks some people to play and fade this week in week 14? Let's get into some IDP plays and fades. All right, folks. For everyone not named Gary, the rules for IDP plays and fades are this. For defensive linemen, we look at Fantasy Pros ECR. We don't include people within the top 12. For linebackers, no one within the top 24. And for defensive backs, no one outside the top 12. That being the case, Gary is the godfather. So
but when have I broke the rules?
You haven't. That's what I'm trying to say. Like,
all right,
you are all knowing and all that because you're the godfather of IDP.
I'll play by your stupid rules.
Totally believe that. That sounded like a totally believable statement right there. All right, let me get this thing going here. Defensive lineman play for the week, VL24 Fantasy Pros ECR. Yaya Diaby versus New Orleans Saints. Since week 10, he has been the edge rusher 9 per PFF and pass rush win rate. 13 total pressure since that time with a pressure rate of 12.1%, which is okay. Not blowing the doors off anything, but like it's okay. It's above the average for defensive linemen / edge rushers. The offensive line for the Saints, though, since week 10, is responsible for the 8th most sacks. And quarterback Tyler Shuck, although I want to call him Tyler Show, I get it. It's Old English, but I don't care. I do not like the spelling. Just spell it SHUCK, is the quarterback 5 in terms of pressure to sack ratio percentage, meaning he crumbles when he gets pressured. That is not great. And then, of course, for New Orleans in this matchup this week, since week 10, they are 12th in fantasy points per game average allowed to the defensive end edge rusher position per Fantasy Pro scoring. So the answer is yes to your – wow, I tried to make a good segue with that. That did not work in my favor. Diaby.
I think Diaby's gotten home in back-to-back games too, hasn't he? So you even got a little hot hand action going on.
That was almost innuendo, but we're going to let that go. Gary, who is your defensive lineman play for the week?
I'm going to go for a guy who has not been hot. In the 4 weeks since he joined the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Phillips has 1 sack, and that came in the second game. First game, he had decent tackle numbers. First 2 games, like 11 tackles and a sack. Last 2 games, not. We don't want to talk about that. But that's okay, because things are about to heat up against the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers are down both starting offensive tackles. I know they protected Justin Herbert pretty well last week, except for when he got his hand broken. So now you've got no offensive tackles and a quarterback with a busted non-throwing hand. The Eagles, coming off that loss to Chicago, are going to they need to win this game. And I expect an angry Philadelphia team to get after the Chargers on – is that the Sunday night game or the Monday night game? Monday night, I think.
Let me pull it up here really quickly. The Eagles take on the Chargers on Monday night. Correct. Real quickly, Brandon. Yeah. Brandon in the chat says, I got banned from Tinder. I made a profile with Myles Garrett as my profile pic, and the tagline, I will sack you. That is.
How do you not get 1 million hits on that? It had to be cleaning house.
That was
you want to talk about some innuendo.
Yeah.
We got guests that are raunchier. The people watching this are as bad as we are. Holy crap.
Yeah. And to those listening.
Degenerates.
Exactly. To those listening for the first time or watching for the first time, this is what you missed. This is what you missed all season long.
This is how you got to get your fantasy football advice. I mean, I don't know how.
Oh, of course. I mean, who wants the dry usual? We got to give some creativity out there. That's the word, creativity.
That's what this is.
That's what this is. JT, who is your play for defensive lineman this week?
All right, Byron Young for the Rams has been on a cold streak. Finally busted out last week. 8 tackles, 5 solo. Finally got off the snide with a sack after he had a really good first 7 weeks of the season. kind of dried up for about 4 weeks, but he's back on in the mix here. Now he's going at Arizona. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Arizona's going to have to throw the football. I think Byron Young with Jared Verse really is a nice duo. I think people have kind of forgotten about Young. I was searching my waiver wires on a few IDP leagues, and Byron Young was out there. Like, I was a little surprised that he was out there in a few leagues, especially in leagues that only started like 1 or 2 D linemen. So if he's out there, go out and grab him. But I like Byron Young. Finally put together last week, got the sack, got the 8 tackles, which anytime you get 8 tackles out of defensive end, you got to freaking love it. So I'm in on that. I like Byron Young. I think he's worth putting back in the lineup.
Cardinals are second in the league in sacks allowed with 42.
Exactly. I think they're going to have to throw. This team, if they're going to stay in this game with the Rams, are going to have to throw, which means Young and Verse are going to get a lot of sack opportunities. Thank you for the assist there, Gary. I appreciate it.
All right. Let's get to linebackers next. Plays. Mine is going to be the LB33 in Fantasy Pros ECR. Divine Diablo. Diablo is Spanish for fighting chicken, is it not? That was a Ricky Bobby Talladega Nights reference, which I almost put on Twitter, and then I thought, would people be upset if I actually said that Diablo was a fight? Like, what is cancelable? I'm making up words now. What does that even mean? Is Talladega Nights a cancelable offense when you reference it? I hope not, because it's a hilarious movie. Thank you. Anyhow, Divine Diablo versus the Seattle Seahawks this week. Back-to-back weeks, finishing inside the top 30 in IDPs overall in points per game using Fantasy Pro scoring. 5th, LB5 in week 13 among linebackers in points per game. LB11 per PFF in run defender grades among linebackers playing at least 50% of snaps. Last week, the Seahawks allowed 2 linebackers from Minnesota to rank inside the top 20 in fantasy points per game among linebackers. And they are the 3rd highest ranking team at the linebacker position in fantasy points per game average allowed. So, yes, give me Divine Diablo, give me the Devil in this matchup versus the Seahawks. He is going to produce for you. So Gary, who's your linebacker play this week?
This hurts me. It pains me, especially since I'm wearing a bunch of Cleveland Browns gear. I'm gonna go Peyton Wilson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not that often that I go gaga over a guy who's only playing between 70 and 75% of the snaps most weeks now. But that could go up this week if Patrick Queen misses the game, which is a possibility. He's nicked up. Despite the fact he's only played, I think it's right around 70% of the snaps on the season. Wilson is on a pace to threaten Pittsburgh's single season tackle record, which is actually only 142 tackles, believe it or not, which Bobby Wagner topped that like 14 times. And they're taking on a Baltimore Ravens team that Lamar Jackson is a mess right now. They got to get Derrick Henry going. And if they get Derrick Henry going, that should mean tackle opportunities for the linebacker position. They have allowed the most fantasy points per game in the AFC to that spot. So give me the part-timer. Give me 7 out of 10. Give me the second-year pro, Peyton Wilson.
I really wish you would have said 6 thrown in there somewhere so we could do a quick 7 reference.
I love that call because Wilson played 100% of snaps once Queen went out with injury. Peyton Wilson played 100% of snaps for the Steelers. I think this is a huge play. I think it's a great call by Gary. I think you got to play Peyton Wilson this week. He's been all over the place for them lately. The tackle efficiency numbers have been fantastic. If there's no Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson's going to be on the field 100% of snaps next week.
JT, who's your play at linebacker this week?
So my play, I've talked about it a couple times, waiting for him to get back from injury, waiting for the snap count to go up, and it's there now. Nakobe Dean for the Eagles. We've been blessed, if you played him, with a bunch of sacks lately. He had 3 straight games with a sack as a linebacker. No sack last week versus Chicago, but his snap share went up to 94%. He had 12 total tackles plus a pass defense after the 3 straight sacks. I think he's in the mix here now. We've been waiting for him to get up over that 65% snap share, which he came back from injury 40, 63, 65, 68, 84 2 weeks ago, and then 94 last week. I think it's time to take the train wheels off. Nakobe Dean is officially back in your lineups. Get him in there. The sack production's been great, and now he's finally got the tackle share. I'm playing Nakobe Dean everywhere again.
All right, let's get to defensive backs. Mine is Josh Metellus, DB20 versus the Washington Commanders. Washington has allowed the second highest point per game average to the safety position since week 10. Metellus, in terms of box snaps among safeties, is 7th overall since week 10. Yet when we look at Fantasy Pros IDP scoring, he has only averaged 8.3 fantasy points per game. That is not great given the usage that he has been having on the field. So someone like Gary would be like 8.3, flick, you're off my roster. I'll find somebody who's getting you a little bit more in the low double digits. And if that has happened and you need an upside play to get into the playoffs or at least play spoiler to somebody in the playoffs, Josh Metellus definitely has the matchup here against Washington this week. So definitely a must play for you out there. Gary, who's your play at defensive back?
I'm actually going with the guy that used to be battery mate with Metellus in Minnesota and Cam Bynum of the Indianapolis Colts. A little more big play reliant than I'd like my defensive backs to be. I think it was 2023. He had like 130 something tackles in Minnesota. And that's not happening anymore. That year, his role was different than it is now, especially in Indianapolis. But he has shown some aptitude to make those big plays. Jacksonville Jaguars lead the NFL in fantasy points per game allowed to safeties. And sooner or later, the Colts have got to go into Duval and actually get out of there with a win. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but I do expect a good game, and I think Cam Bynum's going to make a big play, get a takeaway.
All right. JT, who's your play to defensive back?
I'm going an old school Steelers player who I feel like I've done nothing but trash this entire season, and that's Minkah Fitzpatrick. He was a no play for me all year, and all of a sudden Minkah is back in the mix, playing nearly 100% of snaps last week. His deep safety role has completely diminished. They've moved him to the slot, and I freaking love it. Had 53 slot snaps last week, played a season high 53. Only played 11% of deep safety, added 7 tackles, a sack. All of a sudden, it looks like him in the slot is the guy we knew early days in Pittsburgh, where he was making plays, getting sacks, getting turnovers, getting picks, doing a little bit of everything. When they moved into that deep safety, he just disappeared. I think he's back in the mix now. And like I said, I've been telling you not to play him all year, but now that he's playing these slot snaps, I really like it. This is more of a natural Minkah Fitzpatrick. 75% snap total in that close range. This is where you want him. He's been really good of late. Blitz rate was 4%. Defensive line was 4%. Box was 10%. Only 11% deep. And like I said, 75% in the slot. If you're going to break out Minkah, now's the time. This is the first time all year I've really felt confident about playing him where I haven't before this.
Steelers are doing the same thing to Jalen Ramsey now. They get these guys that can make all kind of plays. If you get them, put them in a position to make plays, and they strand their ass 17 yards from the line of scrimmage where they just wind up standing there waiting for something to happen. It's bad coaching. And
then those problems, those guys get bored, right, Gary? They get bored. They're playing deep the whole game, and then all they do is get in fights. They just end up punching guys in the face because they're like trying to get in the mix.
I ain't saying the Steelers should fire Mike Tomlin, but I'm not saying it. And Mike Tomlin's a really good coach, and he'll get snatched up immediately. But we've seen it with like Andy Reid in Philly. We've seen really good coaches that their time with a certain team just kind of runs out and things get stale.
I think that Andy Reid comparison is perfect. I agree. I love Tomlin. I think he's a great coach. I still think he's going to be a good coach. I do think it's become stale in Pittsburgh. I think the Andy Reid comparison where he was kind of getting stale in Philly went and revitalized his career with the Chiefs. I think Tomlin's going to crush it somewhere else, but I think you're right. It might be time to cut bait in Pittsburgh.
All right. Let's get to our fades here at all 3 positions, starting with defensive line. I'm going to give you mine. Mine's going to be Andrew Van Ginkel versus the Commanders. Washington, since week 10 per PFF, has the second highest pass blocking efficiency metric among all NFL teams, allowing only 2 sacks and 3 quarterback hits during that time. In week 13, we saw Van Ginkel's role kind of relegated to playing more on run snap downs than passing downs, which last time I checked for an edge rusher, not great when you're taken off the field for passing down situations and you're only played in running situations. And here's the thing. I'm all about picking up players for defensive line who have tackle upside because that elevates their fantasy floor. And then all the impact plays they have on top of that, means buku fantasy points for you out there. But, the dude has a very high missed tackle rate, which doesn't really make me super excited for him as a run defender. So now you have this guy who last year was very efficient rushing the passer, was one of the top edge rushers / defensive linemen for IDP Fantasy Football. And now you're asking him not to do the thing that made him so good last year. That doesn't sit well with me. So plus we're seeing Dallas Turner getting a lot more work. Dallas Turner had a heck of a week last week. He's playing more passing down snap percentages than Van Ginkel is. So given his role is shifting here on this Vikings defense, not a fan of Van Ginkel, plus the matchup versus Washington after you saw what Washington was able to withstand from Denver last week. It doesn't look good for Van Ginkel AVG this week. Gary, who is your defensive lineman fade for the week?
I'm swinging for the fences. I don't play around. Max Crosby, Las Vegas Raiders, the number 3 edge rusher in fantasy football this year. A terror. And the Raiders ain't won a game since the bye week. But since they come out of the bye, Crosby has been a monster. And you talk about a guy who with a high tackle floor. That's what makes Crosby so attractive is his ability to rack up sacks and then go get you 10, 12 sacks. And it's just the best of both worlds. It's like chocolate and peanut butter. But this week they're taking on a Denver Broncos team that has allowed 14 sacks. Bo Nix just doesn't get sacked a lot. Denver is also struggling to run the ball since J.K. Dobbins got hurt. So I don't know that there's a ton of tackle upside for Crosby this week either. And if you're relying on that big play against a team that doesn't give them up in a week where you got to have it, I don't know if I have any shares of Crosby. He'd be almost impossible to sit unless you have ridiculous depth on the defensive line. I am saying you should go into the week knowing you're probably not going to get even an average stat line out of Max Crosby in week 14.
Love it. JT, who is your fade at defensive lineman this week?
Jonathan Grenard for the Vikings, DL32 this week, going against Washington. Coming off the injury last week, they eased him back in the lineup. Only saw a 22% snap share. No way I'm even considering putting him in my lineup until I see him getting, 60, 70, 75% snap share. They're working him back in, easing him in. I know you can get, antsy and be like, hey, I want to play the stud defensive lineman, but 22% snap share last week is not doing it for me. Even though he's DL32, I'm sitting him this week. I'm not playing him until I see more.
I've got Turner ahead of Grenard this week in my ranking.
Absolutely.
100%. All right, let's get to the linebacker fades. This linebacker, he was the be-all, end-all last year, and have things changed. Jamian Sherwood, again, going against the Miami Dolphins. LB, I know, right? LB 49 in Fantasy Pro scoring since week 10. He only has an 11.8 tackle efficiency during that time period. A far cry from what he was averaging last year. Both his base metrics, advanced metrics, however you want to look at it, just completely have fallen off compared to his last year performance. The Dolphins ranked dead last in the league in point per game average allowed to the linebacker position since week 10. So, again, it's one of those things where if you invested in defensive linemen in your draft way back when, God, it feels like forever because it is forever since we all were drafting back in August. You may have taken Sherwood as one of your top LBs. You may be stuck with him.
Yeah. You're
playing him, but you're not happy about it. Hence the fade at the position this week. Gary, who is your fade at linebacker this week?
Sherwood's my number 1 linebacker in Buckus. My number 2 linebacker is Terrell Bernard. He's dead. So it's linebacker and wide receiver, man, just killing me in that league this year. My fade, I faded this guy either last week or week before, so I hate to go back to the well, but Foye Aluakin. I don't know that I'm that worried about the injury yet, although he is listed as questionable. I'm not really worried about anyone on Wednesday being listed as questionable, especially not in week 14 when everyone is questionable.
Right.
But the Colts have just been a garbage matchup for linebackers all season, which you would think, given the year that Jonathan Taylor's had, even though he's cooled off the last couple of weeks, that it would be a linebacker gold mine. You got this running back banging away 30-plus times. No, because the only time Jonathan Taylor don't get tackled because he just runs in the end zone and the Colts get 6 points. So it's another one of, we're talking about guys that unless you're exceptionally fortunate, you don't have a choice but to roll them out. But again, it's more of an admonition, again, that you need to know as you're setting your lineup, okay, I've got this linebacker that looks like he's not, you look at his average and you're like, no, I'm not going to get that. So maybe at another position or even another linebacker spot, that's where you got to roll the dice on that ceiling guy because you got to make up those points somewhere. Because again, there are no more cupcakes left. You don't get to play a 1-in-10 team no more.
Right. Love it. JT, who's your linebacker fade this week?
So my guy is Teddy Buchanan out of the Ravens, LB 48, going against the Steelers this week. He's getting about a 70% snap share. I think we thought he was going to eventually kind of really take over the second LB spot, be a big tackle-heavy guy for the Ravens. He's been okay. I don't want to diss him, but he hasn't had a double-digit performance since week 8 versus the Bears. He's had a decent floor as far as tackles are concerned, but he just really, if you need a win, he's not the guy that's been giving it to you. He had week 5, 6. They were bye on week 7 and then week 8. 3 straight double-digit tackle performances. Performance where he had double-digit scoring and was close to double-digit tackles. Since then, 4 tackles, 3 tackles, 7 tackles, 6 tackles. Been in the 5 to 8 range for the last 4 weeks. I'm going somewhere else. I've got him in a couple lineups. I've kind of been like in and out playing him. I'm probably fading him this week. This Steelers offense has been brutally bad. They've been running the ball more, but I just don't think they're going to be on the field a ton. I have a feeling both these offenses, it ends up being a really big defensive game, a lot of 3-and-outs. So I don't see a high upside for him. So I'm passing this week.
Sean just mentioned a good LB fade too, Diane Henley of the Chargers.
He was the other guy on my list. He has not been good lately. Oh
no,
man,
it's
Henley's
a trash
really
matchup.
rough.
It's a trash matchup. Henley has fallen. What is it with Chargers linebackers? Why is the Los Angeles Chargers the team that linebackers go to die? Because every linebacker on that team either winds up hurt or their tackle numbers just fall off a flipping cliff.
I'm praying for Junior Colson next year. I need a Junior Colson big comeback season next year.
Oh my God,
it's
we're
probably
still
not looking
Junior
good.
Colson?
And I know Gary is the Ohio State man. Is not going to be happy with that one. But I need a big Junior Colson comeback next year for the Chargers.
I wouldn't, don't lay no money on it because I don't. How can he come back when he never showed up?
Ooh, let's talk about people who are not going to be showing up at defensive back this week for fades. Mine, and we were referencing him earlier. In fact, we didn't reference him. We talked about him earlier. Kyle Duggar versus the Baltimore Ravens. And here's the thing that I find kind of interesting, and this is why you can't always go by like the hot, trendy stats, which they're hot and trendy for a reason, but they don't always tell the whole picture. Kyle Duggar, last past week versus the Bills, played 98% of snaps in the box, aka close to the line of scrimmage. Since week 10, Kyle Duggar has been the 6th safety in box snaps. Here's the thing with Kyle Duggar, though. Has a 12.5 missed tackle rate, which is not great. In terms of defensive stop percentage since week 10, is 33rd amongst safeties and has an average depth of tackle of 7.8 yards. Just let those running backs get those first downs, why don't you? He has been the DB 40 since week 10 overall in Fantasy Pros IDP scoring. So he's playing in the right place. He's playing there a lot, but that doesn't always mean you're going to get the production you're hoping for. And that's exactly what you've been getting from Kyle Duggar. Just far cry from where he was in New England, where he was a weekly, week in, week out starter for many of fantasy managers. It's just not clicking there in Pittsburgh for fantasy purposes.
Well, there's a reason he's not in New England anymore. He sucks.
There you go. Gary, who's your defensive back fade this week?
Well, this guy doesn't suck, at least from all indications. And honestly, he's a guy that I think Caleb Downs is, when I look at Caleb Downs and I watch Caleb Downs play, he's kind of the player I comp him to. Kyle Hamilton of the Baltimore Ravens, a guy that can do a little bit of everything, a guy that can play the slot, a guy that can play deep safety, a guy that can get up in the box and get dirty against the run. NFL teams, I have no doubt, are salivating over what Caleb Downs can bring to an NFL secondary. And we've seen Kyle Hamilton do that for the Ravens. He's a fantastic NFL player, but he's barely inside the top 20 in fantasy points among defensive backs right now, which is not where he was drafted to be. And JT, how good does Steelers passing game be right now?
Dude, you just say Caleb Downs, and I'm like, man, I wish he would be on the Steelers. I wish he could draft the Steelers. I don't think there's any way he gets the Steelers, and I know that.
Well, I don't think
him on the Steelers.
Caleb Downs.
He would be
Y'all need to draft.
Steelers.
Y'all need Cardell Tate's what you need. You need someone catching.
Oh yeah, got to go wide. I mean, obviously they need to go wide receiver, big time.
That's my point.
With you there. They should be taking anyone from Ohio State this year in the first and second round next year for the Steelers. I would be down on that. They should be looking at all those guys.
Jack Sawyer's worked out all right, but that's my point. The Pittsburgh offense it's not
it's
good
brutal
at moving the ball.
It's a coaching issue, I think, but it's bad.
It's all 4 yards down the field, and Hamilton's not going to see enough box snaps. Steelers are, I believe, dead last in fantasy points per game without the safeties.
They don't throw anything across the middle. It's all outside. It's all to the sidelines, which doesn't help Hamilton at all. He's not going to make any plays with him throwing the sideline on every play and a bunch of 3-and-outs.
I might legit sit Hamilton this week for a matchup play if I had him legitimately.
I just don't see how anyone on the Ravens outside of maybe a Roquan Smith has a very big day unless they get a bunch of sacks and takeaways, because I just think the Steelers are going to be 3-and-out, 3-and-out, 3-and-out. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of stats to be had is the problem. This game feels like this feels like a 15-12 game, 12-9, like bunch of field goals, both teams struggling to do anything. I just yelling at the screen the entire game going, what is going on? But it feels like an ugly, ugly game where the fantasy stats are awful on offense and defense.
What's going on is that your quarterback is 72 years old and you have.
I mean, he is almost the same age as me. We almost graduated the same time of college together, which is a problem. I mean, you can see all the gray in my beard. It's a problem that we're almost the same age. If I took one hit from TJ Watt or Myles Garrett, I would be on my deathbed in the hospital.
I would take a hit from Myles Garrett just to do it. I would. Hit me.
That is a decision.
Do I get an autograph afterward? Because if I do, go ahead, blast me, man. I'm down.
All right, JT, we got to get through real quickly your defensive back fade to get through sack lunch because Fourth and Frames is kicking down the door.
Yeah, we'll take two. All right. My guy's Cameron Kitchen for the Rams, DB 31 this week. So the hope would be when Quentin Lake got hurt that he would kind of slide in to that slot role that Quentin Lake's just dominated. It's been such a good IDP spot for defensive backs. It's not been the case at all. He is playing more deep safety than he was before, 82% deep safety. On top of that, he only saw a 60% snap share last week. He's had some solid games of late. So if you are on the waiver wire, I know people looking, they're like, ooh, Quentin Lake's out. He's been up there. Like, if you just look at past performances, they've looked okay. I just think it's a little bit of false gold with Kitchen. He's played okay. He's had decent numbers, but he's playing way too much deep safety. I don't love it. I don't trust him. So even though the numbers in the last 4 weeks have been okay, I don't trust it. So don't go out there and pick him up and think he's going to give you some huge performance this week and help you make the playoffs. I just don't trust it.
All right. Let's get to sack lunch. So as you know, folks, each and every week we end the show by talking about one player that we can only mention once during the season that we are predicting to have a sack. And then after the season is over in our year in review show in week 18, we will tally up the points and see who between myself, Gary, JT, and Steve is the winner. The person with the lowest point total will take a pie in the face. And this week, this is something that has not happened at all this entire season, which is well within the rules. We said that we could just pick one player once. It did not mean we could not all pick the same player at the same time this week. And I think I'll pick JT and Gary when I say Myles Garrett, get us some sacks this week.
Wheels up.
well-
I usually try to avoid who everybody else takes, and I know Gary got on jumped on Myles Garrett right away, but I was like, I don't think it's against the rules, and I'm like, I feel like that's the most guaranteed take this week, and I'm like, I can't fall one sack behind by letting you guys take it. So I was like, I'm jumping back in with a group. I'm going a full group on Myles Garrett.
Nick Benito this week against the Raiders is another one that's like you figure
that is a nice one.
Gravy.
I think I might have used him already.
But again, he needs 4 to break the record, and I believe the Titans have allowed 48 sacks this year. They lead the NFL. I mean, he might get 4 Sunday, and it wouldn't be the first time this year he'd done it.
Yeah,
I feel like this is a Bobby Boucher game where they win just because Myles Garrett gets a ton of sacks and runs one back for a touchdown, and they win.
Well, and because the Titans
7-3
suck
on just that, and Myles Garrett is the champion in a 7-3 victory.
No, Quinshon Judkins is going to get me a couple touchdown runs. So
I like that. I got Judkins a lot of spots, so I'm in on that.
I will say real quick before we get out of here, since week 10, the Raiders have allowed 22 sacks since that time period. The next closest team is Jacksonville with 8. So that should tell you all you need to know about Raiders.
10 of those came against Cleveland, and Garrett had 3 in that game.
That is, all right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for Shoot the Gap. We are going to round out Fantasy and Frames Wednesdays with 4th and Frames up next. We'll be back next week for the first round of the fantasy playoffs, giving you a floor play, a ceiling play, and of course fades for your first round matchups. Okay. Anyhow, thank you very much for everybody who's tuned in today. 4th and Frames is up next. We'll see you next week, folks.